maybe others, Devaki. So he's talking about the Brijbasis. Actually, he's talking specifically to Satyabhama. So speaking about how that would help, then he says, Marikshanad eva vigardha bhavo dayena labdha vikala vimoham nadaihikam kinchana te nadeham vidur nachatmanam aho kimanyat. Just by seeing me, they become so dazed and bewildered by ecstasies from deep within that they fail to recognize their own bodies and everything that has to do with their bodies, what to speak of the rest of the world. Commentary: as soon as the devotees of Braja see Krishna's beauty, their prema transforms into intense ecstasies, manifest in their bodies as trembling, perspiring, and other sattvic symptoms. These devotees then enter a trance of bewilderment, losing external consciousness. In this state, called vimoham, the most exceptional trance, vishishtamoham, the Supreme Person reveals himself in full with his attributes and associates. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Oh, thank you. This state, therefore, lies far beyond the partial realization of the truth attained by the impersonalists in their ordinary samadhi with its artificial background of voidness. When the Brajbasis see him, I'm skipping just a little bit, they forget their own bodies and everything connected with them, family, social position, responsibilities, and so on. They forget whatever plans they may have had for success in this life and the next. Therefore, since the Brajbasis, upon seeing Krishna again, would lose all contact with reality, Krishna sees no hope of restoring them to health by returning. His going back to them would only make their condition worse. Drishtepi shamyen mayitan nadukam vichcheda chinta kulitatman nam vai harshaya tesham kriyate vidhir yo dukam sasadyo dvigami karoti. So their pain won't be relieved even if they see me. Their hearts will be so disturbed by thoughts of separation from me that whatever measures I take for their happiness will only double their grief. Commentary: in their trance of separation, the devotees of Braja are aware of nothing but Krishna. Their ecstasy is so deep that as a natural effect of remembering Krishna, they see him physically before them. Other pure devotees, whose love for Krishna is not on the same level of perfection, have separate experiences of him internally and externally. Dhruva, for example, concentrated his mind on Lord Vishnu in deep meditation, but his internal vision of the Lord did not expand into a vision outside like that of the gopis. Only when Lord Vishnu came to Dhruva to offer him special mercy did the Lord disappear from Dhruva's heart to show himself externally. As described in the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, Savaidhiya yoga vipaka tivraya hrit padmakoshe spuritam taditprabham tirohitam sahasaivopa bahistatam tad avastam tadarsha. The form of the Lord, brilliant like lightning, on which Dhruva Maharaj, in his mature yogic process, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus Dhruva was perturbed, and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. The full vision of Krishna's beauty relished by the Brajbasis is the ultimate fruit of spiritual perfection. One might suggest, therefore, that if Krishna were to present himself once more before the Brajbasis, their condition would certainly improve. This might be true, but to recover from the intense pain of separation would take time. And the Brajbasis, thinking Krishna might leave them again, might relapse into their trance of separation. Therefore, Krishna thinks that returning to them would only cast them deeper into suffering. The painful anxiety of separation from Krishna puts the Atmas of the Brajbasis, meaning their hearts, their bodies, and the very essence of their being, into turmoil. When a person has not eaten for a long time, the vital elements of his body are depleted, so that even after obtaining food, he takes time to recover. He does not recover simply by having food placed before him. He has to eat, and in a manner that does not make him sicker. Then he has to wait for the nourishment to be distributed in his body. Similarly, Krishna thinks, the Brajbasis will not recover just by seeing me. They will have to enjoy pastimes with me, and not only for a short time, but as long as needed to fulfill their desires. I fear that this will prove impossible, since I have too many other things to take care of elsewhere. I'm incapable of curing them. Even if Krishna's concern were unfounded, if he were to treat their disease of separation by returning to them, they would remain susceptible to agitation, thinking he might leave them again. Their anxiety, being an essential part of their very existence, cannot be cured even by his personal darshan. As Krishna indicates by the word vai, he knows this from his own experience with the devotees of Vrindavan, and so also to the other devotees. And then there's a discussion. I'm going to cut it a little short because, well, I have two choices. Let me just see one thing. Hmm. 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 Yeah. Mhm. Okay, I'm going to cut this a little short. Mm. Yeah, wait, this is what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay, I'm going a little backwards, but I'm going to cut this a little short. Or I can cut it long. Yeah, maybe I'll cut it long, and we can. We'll, we'll do that. So Krishna knows from his experience that the devotees, even when they're with him, the devotees of Braja feel separation. And then there's a discussion, as Sukadeva Goswami relates in the last chapter of the 10th canto. After Krishna's queens enjoyed water sports with him, with Krishna, the queens mourned. Kurari vilapisi tvam vita nidra nasheshe swapati jagati ratriam isharo gupta bodha vayamiva saki kachchid gadha nirbinna cheta nalina nayana haso darali lekshitena. O Kurari bird, at night you are lamenting. Somewhere in this world, the Supreme Lord is asleep in a hidden place, but you are wide awake, O friend, unable to fall asleep. Is it that you, like us, have had your heart pierced to the core by the munificent, playful, smiling glances of the lotus-eyed Lord? While speaking this verse, Krishna's queens were not actually separated from him. Thus they say, Ratriyam Ishvara, referring to the night as different from the present moment. In fact, they were speaking during the day and had just finished playing with Krishna in the water. Introducing these sports, Shukadev had said, Uchur Mukundaya Kadiyo Kira Unmatibajjaram Chintayantyo Ravindaksham Tani Me Gadatashranu. The queens then became stunned in ecstatic trance, their minds absorbed in Krishna alone. Thinking of their lotus-eyed Lord, they spoke as if insane. Please hear their words from me as I relate them. Thus the queens, whose only object of attention was Krishna, were momentarily speechless in trance. When their thoughts of Krishna impelled them to speak, they spoke slowly, as if recovering from mental imbalance. From their words, it is evident that Krishna's queens were foreseeing the pain of separation even while enjoying with him. Shukadeva Goswami chose to end his narration of the 10th canto on this note of especially intense sweetness. Madhurenas samapayet. Krishna may be the omniscient Supreme Lord and the most expert arranger of all things to satisfy his devotees. But these very special devotees, the devotees in Braja, he feels unable to help. Tesham, there, may again refer either to the Vrajbasis in general or else only to the gopis. His sentiments expressed in this verse are befitting in either case. Any attempt to make the Vrajbasis happy will quickly make everything go wrong, just as water thrown on an oil fire makes the fire explode and go out of control. Thus, Krishna faces a dilemma. On one hand, the Vrajbasis do not know how they can survive in separation from Krishna. And on the other hand, even if he stays with them a long time, they will inevitably worry that at any moment he might leave them again. As this most exquisite agony of viraha bhav rises in their hearts, it will only worsen their grief. Krishna reasons that just as there's no way to remove the natural quality of heat that he imparted to the element fire at the time of creation, there's no way that anyone, even he himself, could withdraw the ecstatic nature of the Vrajbasis imparted to them by his unique mercy. This state of affairs is the greatest glory of the residents of Braja. Of course, the devotees of Krishna in Braja feel special ecstasy when they join with him directly in the spontaneous pastimes found nowhere else. Nonetheless, the special pure love born of separation from him rises within them most of the time. The Vrajbasis are the special recipients of super excellent viraha bhav, which is his greatest mercy, parama mahatva, because it is filled with the highest special happiness, carried to its ultimate extreme. Although everyone in this world lives in separation from Krishna, only the Vrajbasis fully experience viraha bhav. Their special ecstasy of separation from Krishna is obtained only by his special mercy, and only after very intimate association with him. Krishna feels very grateful for the transcendental love of his gopis and his other beloved devotees in Vrindavan, so he cannot bear to see the disastrous effects of their viraha bhav. He therefore cannot return to live in Vrindavan again, or even pay a short visit. Adrishyamane chamayi pradipta viyogavaner vikala kadachit mrta ivonmada hata kadachit vichitra bhavam madhuram bhajante. And when they cannot see me, they become so torn that the fire of separation leaves them sometimes as though dead, and sometimes as though insane. Thus they partake of the nectar of wonderful ecstasies. Commentary. In this verse, Krishna defends himself against the accusation that he's ungrateful to have abandoned the residents of Braja. What the Brajbasis feel because of Krishna's absence is a concentrated agony, similar to the burning heat of fire. They lose control of their wits and sometimes seem on the verge of death, showing no external sign of life. At other times, they seem afflicted by madness. But Krishna explains that these are all signs of the highest devotional ecstasy. Tamishra punjari yareva kinchid madhya varnopamam ikshate tai sachumbanam tat parirabhyate mad tiya param tat kwanuvarnaniyam. If they see a patch of darkness resembling my complexion, they embrace and kiss it, mistaking it for me. What more can I describe? Commentary. These commentaries, by the way, are Sanatana Goswami's own commentary he wrote a commentary on his own book. And so Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu has, in his commentary, has mainly translated and paraphrased what Sanatana Goswami himself has said. When the devotees of Vrindavan, especially the young gopis, see a shadow or a dark place that reminds them of Krishna's spotless dark blue complexion, they think that Krishna is standing before them. What else they do besides trying to kiss and embrace the shadow, Krishna would rather not describe, because some of his hearers might be unqualified to understand, and others might be plunged into distress. Even if he were to return to his devotees in Vrindavan and grace them with his presence, he would be powerless to soothe and enliven them. And even in his absence, the Brajbasis sometimes enjoy his presence on their own by picturing spiritual images of him within their minds. So Krishna feels he cannot do anything to change their situation and must remain an insolvent debtor, as he previously described. He should not be called ungrateful because the circumstances render him helpless. Ateva maya svasya stitim apyastite samam drishtva nagamyate tatra shrinvartam yushmadudvahe. Therefore, my staying with them would be equal to my absence. Realizing this, I have not returned there. And then Krishna will speak, he says to Satyabhama, now hear the real reason I married you. That's a separate discussion. Commentary. Whether Krishna shows himself to his dearmost devotees or remains unseen to them, they will be torn by the ecstasies of separation, and he will suffer the frustration of being unable to help them. Such is the apparent misery of Krishna and his devotees. But there's another level of this transcendental reality, unseen to ordinary eyes. Krishna lives eternally in Vrindavan, in his invisible aprakata manifestation, endlessly continuing to bestow the enjoyment of his pastimes. In some confidential pastimes, he returns to Vrindavan from Dwarka in his aprakat form. Thus, at the same time that the devotees of Vrindavan suffer separation from Krishna's prakata manifestation, his manifested presence, they continue to enjoy forever the manifestation in which his pastimes are aprakat, or invisible. Some subtle hints of this have already been spoken by Krishna. I can never fully repay these devotees, and so I am utterly indebted to them. Just by seeing me, they become so dazed and bewildered by ecstasies from deep within. And whatever measures I take for their happiness will only double their grief. Elsewhere, the evidence for Krishna's secretly returning to Mathura Mandala is more concrete. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 11, Text 9, the citizens of Dwarka mention Krishna's trips to Hastinapur and Mathura Mandala. And the ladies of Hastinapur, referring to Krishna's perpetual presence in Mathura, speak in the present tense. Aho alam shlagya tamam yadokulam, aho alam punya tamam madhorvanam, yadesha pungsam rishapa priya shriya, swajanmana chankramanena chanchati. Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, is marking the land by his birth and his wanderings. Present tense. The women of Mathura city also talk about Krishna's being present still in Braja. Punyabhata Vrajabhuvo Yadayam Ralinga Gurdha Purana Purusho Vanachitra Malya Kapalayan Sahapala Kranayang Chavenum Vikridayan Shatikiritra Ramarchitangrihi. How pious are the tracts of land in Vrindavan! For there the primeval personality of Godhead, disguising himself with human traits, wanders about, enacting his many pastimes. Adorned with wonderfully variegated forest garlands, his feet worshipped by Lord Shiva and the goddess Rama, he vibrates his flute as he tends the cows in the company of Balaram. Bhagavatam 10:44-13, and again present tense. In the Uttarakanda of Sri Padma Puran, Lord Shiva relates to his wife an even more explicit account of Krishna's returning to Braja and remaining there permanently. And in the second part of this Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the glories of Goloka, the conclusion will demonstrate that Lord Krishna always resides in Gokula. Nevertheless, Krishna has chosen not to divulge to Sri Satyabhama and his other queens that he returned to Gokula. Hearing about this would distress them, and he cannot tolerate seeing his devotees distressed. So then Krishna explains, yeah, why he married Satyabhama. He said he had no, I'm just going to summarize the coming verses. He said he had no intention of getting married, no desire to marry when he came to Mathura. But then he got this letter from Rukmini, and she said, you know, I'll commit suicide if I can't obtain you. So he kidnapped Rukmini. But then, seeing Rukmini made him think of the gopis more and more, and this disturbed him. And so he said some 16,000 gopis had worshipped Katyayani to get Krishna as their husband. So to bring my mind somewhat to peace by seeing a likeness of them, I married the same number of you queens here in Dwarka. So this is some insight from Brihad Bhagavatamrita on Krishna's reasons for not returning to Vrindavan, some of his inner thoughts. Any questions or comments? Yes.
I was just reflecting how in this world, yeah, this is just
Oh, you have to speak up.
louder, clearer. Yeah, no, it's a bit of an exposing my level of consciousness, but what I was reflecting on is how in this world also it seems that the good times are short, and then the separation of it is not to compare it, obviously, but they are long. And then, yeah, that's all I have to
Either
say.
way, it's trouble.
Right.
Sometimes husband and wife are separated, the husband dies, the wife dies, and then, you know, the partner is in grief for the rest of their life. And sometimes they live together for decades and decades and decades, and then they're both in grief for the rest of their life. In any case, it's said in the Bhagavatam that we're like flotsam and jetsam, the stuff that bobs in the water, the seaweed and those sticks and things, and the water brings those things together for a while, and they float in the ocean like this, and the water separates them, and they go off into different parts of the ocean. So that's our life together. We wander from lifetime to lifetime, and then sometimes we come together with a group of people, and there are as husbands and wives and family members. And then sometimes even within this life we separate. And certainly by the end of this life we separate and go in different directions. So meeting and separation, where we meet with these people just for a short time. That son of Chitraketu, in which lifetime was I your son? The boy, the Chitraketu, after much endeavor, finally got his son, by the blessings of the sages. And then the son died, or was murdered. And the king was plunged into grief. So then the boy was apparently brought back to life. And he said, in which lifetime was I your son? I've been going through so many lifetimes. But here the relationship between Krishna and the Brajavasis is eternal, so much so that there can't be any separation. Even when there's separation, when there is separation, they're most intensely associated with Krishna. And even when they're associated with Krishna, they're feeling, they're worrying about separation. So this is on the transcendental plane. Our meeting and separation are both Maya. They're both products of the illusory energy, based on this body, which we have no relationship with. Sangohiyam Purusha. We have nothing to do with this body, but we're imagining that we're this body. These are my friends and relatives. So the whole thing is illusory and temporary. But on the spiritual platform, these are real, both the ecstasy of being with Krishna and the ecstasy of apparent separation from Krishna are on the transcendental platform. Elsewhere, Sanatana Goswami will say that usually we think that separation is exalted because it increases the ecstasy of meeting. After losing something, when we get it back, we're so joyful. But he says, no, it's higher than that. He says the ecstasy of separation itself is more ecstatic, more great than the ecstasy of meeting. And therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this world to, in that mood, to feel that the highest ecstatic love experienced by the gopis, which he could experience only in separation. He could have said, well, I'll be in the mood of meeting and experience the highest feelings that they do. But they experience a higher ecstasy when they're in separation from Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to taste that. So these are all confidential and exalted teachings of the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Goswamis. When we go out and meet people for book distribution, we don't say, you read these books and become Krishna conscious, you'll be miserable for the rest of your life. You'll be in the greatest agony. But these are for those who have some understanding of relationships with Krishna. These truths are disclosed. Something else? Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier about the temporality of the relationships with the family coming together and meeting. I was wondering if these apply to once we start Krishna consciousness, we lose our material relationships by force or choice. So I'm wondering, do these temporality apply to our spiritual relationships? Temporality of relationships apply to spiritual friendships and the relationship with the guru and disciple?
To all these relationships of the material world are lost by the power of the material energy. Do these relationships do spiritual relationships persist, or are they lost between spiritual associates, between guru and disciple, and so on? Well, the relationship first between guru and disciple, we hear, is eternal. That it's never lost. How it will exist in the spiritual world, we'll discover. But we hear that it's never lost. The relationships with others may also exist on the spiritual platform, but again, we'll have to discover what it is. What's the word? The sentimental followers of different spiritual, quasi-spiritual ideas envision themselves being together lifetime after lifetime. Generally people think there's only one life and that's it. Then you go to heaven. And they also have the idea sometimes. They also have the idea. We didn't bring any books today. Do we have books? We're out of books again. They also have the idea that we go to heaven and we'll be together. We'll be united in heaven. I've gotten some tracts from a Bible society that shows heaven, and it's kind of like suburbia. The sun is shining down, and there's a nice little cottage with a white picket fence, and the husband and wife are there, and maybe there's a little dog barking. It's just like home here, but it's eternal. So that's the reward that you get in heaven. You live with your family, if you can call that a reward. And then there are those who think that, in terms of soulmates, that no, there's more than one life, and we can be together lifetime after lifetime. How wonderful. We'll know one another. Somehow fate will bring us together again and again. This is another product of the illusory energy. Sometimes it may happen. Prabhupada talked about the man who was a beggar, and he came to a house, and the residents beat him with shoes and drove him away. And Prabhupada said that previously he'd been the father in that house. And it's due to some disagreement or whatever, now they're driving him away. Or you may become a cockroach in the house. You're attached to the house, and you can stay with your family and take the crumbs from the table as a cockroach. So this is, for the most part, an imaginary idea. We'll be together lifetime after lifetime. And what good will it do us? We'll gratify our senses together life after life. We won't only have one meaningless lifetime together, we'll have endless meaningless lifetimes together. So there may be we may have association in the spiritual world, but not corresponding on a one-to-one relationship to what's here. There'll be an Indian section, and then there'll be an American section, and there'll be Latin America, and there'll be Germany, and there'll be sets of husbands and wives from previous lifetimes all living together as husbands and wives again. But this time their bodies will be blue, and they'll have 4 arms, or they'll be living in Goloka Vrindavan together as husbands and wives. No. God, please, no. That's not what the Shastras lead us to expect. But we may be in some ways associated. First of all, everyone is serving Krishna. So by that, we're all as Prabhupada said, packed up tight. One time he said, I'm chanting Hare Krishna here, you're chanting Hare Krishna there. So we're packed up tight. So in the absolute world, how we may associate, again, we'll find out when we're there. We've read that letter some time ago that we'll have another ISKCON there. But we'll have a new GBC. Is that okay? Even, yeah, okay. In Vrindavan, there, yeah, okay, I won't. I said enough. Something else. Yes.
You mentioned becoming blue with 4 arms.
Mm.
And we read that also some chapters ago that Kamsa achieved that kind of liberation. I was wondering if you achieve that, what happens to your eternal Swarup?
What happens to your eternal?
Swarup.
That is your eternal Swarup. If you
okay.
go to Vaikuntha, you've gone there because that's your eternal situation. According to one's particular taste for serving Krishna, one may live either in Vaikuntha to serve in a reverential relationship, or one may live in Goloka Vrindavan to serve in spontaneous love. But in any case, it's eternal.
Because I read in the biography of Radhanath Swami that he visited a very great Ram devotee. And every day they would do katha in Hindi, and he wouldn't understand. We'd sit there, and afterwards there was one person who could translate for him. But every time he translated, it was Krishna katha, and he couldn't match the two. So after a few weeks, actually, this master came to him and he said, I will not tell you anything about Ram because you are a Krishna devotee.
Mm.
So I was wondering, if everyone has their eternal Swarup, it can also be that it is not Krishna in the way that we are studying Krishna.
It can be Ram. Ram has his eternal devotees. Hanuman doesn't graduate and become a Krishna Bhakta. That would be totally against his nature. There's a discussion of that in the second part, in the first part of Brihad Bhagavatamrita. That yes, I know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but I've sold myself to Lord Ram. Murari Gupta, same thing. They're begging him, please, please, please become a devotee of Krishna. All right. But then he spends the whole night crying, and I couldn't do it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed him. Yes, you're Hanuman.
I was wondering how that works when we go out and preaching. So maybe we encounter some souls who are actually more inclined for other rasas.
You don't have to worry about that when you go out book distribution. That you may mislead some people who are potential Lakshmi Narayan devotees or Ram bhaktas. They're bhaktas of Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mada, Moha, Matsarja, or Gandha, Sparsha, and sense objects. We don't have to deal with those problems. Let them first pry their fingers off their intense attachment to the material spirit of enjoyment. Then we can see about these other things. At the present stage, we're neither Krishna Bhaktas, nor Ram Bhaktas, nor Narayan Bhaktas. So first we don't even know that we're not these bodies. We're Dehatma Bhaktas, devotees of the body and mind. So we have a way to go. Yes, Rukmini.
Marge, I'm just checking that I understand the text properly. It seems to indicate that Krishna did go back to Vrindavan.
Yes.
And it's unknown to others.
Yes. The text here, Sanatana Goswami is giving evidence that Krishna confidentially returns to Vrindavan. And he gives evidence from first canto Srimad Bhagavatam, 2 places, I think, Skanda Purana, where it's said that Krishna visits these places, that he's that he does these things, and it's in present tense. The Hastinapur ladies are speaking after Krishna has left Vrindavan, but they're saying he does this, he does that in Vrindavan. Nityam Sanhito Harihi. Krishna lives eternally in Vrindavan. So these things are inconceivable and also secret. Sanatana Goswami is, what is that? Nana Shastra Vicharane Kunipano. The Goswamis did intense research to discover so many things, Saddharma Samstapaka, to establish the truth of Krishna's form, qualities, pastimes, and so on. So they've detected this evidence in Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sanatana Goswami is sharing that with us.
Marja, I was just wondering, why would it have to be such a big secret?
Otherwise the queens would flip. That's the explanation given here, that Krishna doesn't talk about it because it would be too painful for the queens to hear about it. Also, these are subtle topics. The main narrative is, Krishna spends this many years in Vrindavan, then he goes to Mathura, then he goes to Dwarka. And people can't wrap their heads around that. That's too much for them to think. They speculate, well, maybe there were 3 different Krishnas, one in Vrindavan and one in Dwarka and one in Hastinapur. One Krishna played with the Brajbasis, another Krishna was there in Kurukshetra. They have so many speculations because they're not trained in the science of Krishna. So they can't even understand the simple narrative. And now if we introduce, well, he never really leaves, they'll be too perplexed. So these things, there are topics that are, also this is not the topic for general discussion. Even Krishna Lila is not really for general discussion, but something Krishna Lila we're sharing with the world. But these are exalted topics. 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. And then these things, further details as we're reading here in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, are really for the devotees. What is Bhaktya Mama Vijanati? Yavanyas Chasmita. Unless one's a devotee, one won't understand these things. So it's shared with the devotees. It's confidential. Prabhupada explained confidential. One thing about confidential means not everyone will understand it. Another meaning is not everyone will be interested. Prabhupada gave the example of baby pictures. You show me your baby pictures, and for you it's like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And for me it's, yeah, okay. So baby pictures, not everyone's interested, but the family, ooh. So the devotees are intensely interested in everything about Krishna. His peacock feather, his flute, the lines on the soles of his feet. They're interested in anything that has to do with Krishna. His tulsi plant, Vṛndāvana Maharaj has been giving a series of mini series of talks about things related to Krishna that give rise, that stimulate ecstasy. So Krishna's blankets, his stick, his flute, so many things related to Krishna. And devotees go on and on and on. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is thinking about Krishna's flute, and it's just one thought after another, after another, after another. By thinking of things related to Krishna. But the non-devotees, it's like, okay, it's a flute. A flute's a flute. No, he's got this kind of flute and that kind. He's got a murli and a vamsi and a vamsi and a murli and some mohini and a this and a that. So many different. This one's this many inches long and has this many holes, and he uses it for calling the cows. And this one's this long, and it's all right. Well, we're interested in God. Why are you talking about this? What does this have to do with theology? No, we're interested in everything that has to do with Krishna. Down to how many holes there are in his flute. But like baby pictures, not everyone's interested. Okay. You had a question?
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, I had a question in relation to Chitralekha's question. If what happens then with the devotees who are in different mats, like different Gaudiya mats, so they're still worshipping Krishna, Lord Chaitanya or Radharani, around here, different like tilak markings and everything. Do they also have the same chance of developing the purity to recognize their eternal relationship and get the same advantage in getting back to Godhead? Or
In other Gaudiya mats?
yeah,
Sure, why not? It's not that we have somehow or other, when we incorporated, we secured from the courts a monopoly on the ability to develop love of Krishna. It's not held within the fence of our institution. We have reasons why we prefer this institution. What its advantages are for us, what great benefits. But if we start going beyond that and saying we're the only ones who can chant Hare Krishna properly, we're the only ones who can ever go back to Godhead, that's too much. Too much. There's no shastric justification for that, certainly. And even Srila Prabhupada, as much as he sometimes had differences with his godbrothers, never went so far as to say, we can get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but only us, only we, not anyone else, only within ISKCON. No. Now, if you want, reasons why we would recommend ISKCON, we can speak at length about that. But just to answer your question, no, we don't have a monopoly.
so what about the things that we do differently? Like if they're not set on chanting 16 rounds a day, they say just chant as many sincere rounds as you can, or they might have principles that we follow that they don't follow, regulative principles, which
Well, that comes under the category of, well, I would put that under the category of Srila Prabhupada's, not category of, I would put that in the context of Srila Prabhupada's success in bringing people to Krishna consciousness. They were there for so many years with their approach to Krishna consciousness and their program of preaching, and undoubtedly they had some success. But Srila Prabhupada had extraordinary success in spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, to Americans, to Europeans, to Latin Americans, to Africans, to Australians, to people outside of all those places. Spread Krishna consciousness all over the world in such a way that people became extraordinarily changed. They went from being Jagai and Madhai to being recognized even in Vrindavan by the leading devotees as genuine devotees of Krishna. So, how is that possible? Prabhupada presented Krishna consciousness and adjusted the program of Krishna consciousness in such a way that it would succeed, that we could take to it. Not only could take to it, but that it would be effective. Because you can make it easy to take to, just say, here your name is, and carry on with your life. But gave some rules also that you had to follow. So he sometimes made it rigid and sometimes made it easily accessible. He put together the whole program and see see the result. See the result in terms of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, and in terms of bringing people to an exalted level of devotional service where they dedicate their lives to the service of Krishna, and become absorbed in thinking of Krishna and serving Krishna. So Prabhupada did that, and his program for doing that is his formula, you can say. By which I don't mean to say it's like a cookie cutter, but he made a program which includes all the things that we do, from Mangalarti to how we worship the deities, how we do kirtan, or used to do kirtan, how we do kirtan, how we offer food to the deities, how we celebrate various festivals, how we observe Ekadasi, how many rounds we chant, how many rules we follow. All these things Prabhupada gave. And because that's been a successful program, much can be said for following that program. Now, you don't have to follow that program if you want. You can join another organization. If you want to join ISKCON and be, properly initiated and seriously following, then we know you have to do this, 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 you're expected to do that, you get to do this. Some things that you can't do over there, you can do here. Some things you have to do here, you don't have to do there. But in ISKCON, this is what we do. Now, if you want, you can go someplace else and do it their way. And you'll definitely get some benefit, no doubt. They're not going to tell you, read Shiva Purana. They're going to have you reading Srimad Bhagavatam. They'll have you chanting Hare Krishna. And for some people, even it may be the best program. What they're given there, they may develop a relationship with someone, and it may be the best thing for their spiritual life. I'm not going to, roll up the drawbridge and say it's only within our castle. But as far as we've seen, this is what's extraordinarily successful. So for those who think about it carefully, and have some relationship already with ISKCON, they may think, well, this is the best deal. And other people may think differently. They may think, well, there's something there that we won't get here. Or they may think, well, it's easy over there and they have to chant 4 rounds. And they don't ask me to promise to follow these 4 rules, or whatever the difference may be. Or, I have friends there, whatever reason. So if they go there, we're sure they'll get Krishna consciousness, and we wish them all success in their spiritual life. We have no reason to be envious, or, oh, we lost 5 people. Out of how many billion people in the world? Africa alone has more than 1 billion people. So if 3 or 5 people go to some other institution, the world doesn't end for us. There's plenty of scope. Subtract 5 from however many billion, as far as our institution goes. And add 5 for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Good, they joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Whether here, there, anywhere, we're happy. Why do we have to feel, oh no?
Thank you, Maharaj.
So Krishna's here, Krishna's there. But what would I recommend for most people? I'd recommend ISKCON. But I have a few friends, I think, they did the best thing. Very, very few. I'm talking about, like on one hand, where I would say, and not to say there aren't more, but of people I know, I could say, yes, this person actually made the right decision. This was under the circumstance. He did the best thing for his spiritual life. And I wish him well. But that's, special case. For most people, it's not what if you ask me, would I recommend that you go someplace where you can have it easier by chanting 4 rounds or whatever? No, I think you'll do better here. But not to say that we're the only game in town. Okay? And the special thing I would say also, more broadly than just our program, ISKCON is distinct because it's the institution dedicated to following Srila Prabhupada. And therefore it's the institution where there's this intense connection to Srila Prabhupada. Other institutions, they may follow something from Srila Prabhupada, they may not follow something they're not under any obligation. There's nothing in their charter that says they have to regard him in any special way or have any special respect for his instructions. They're entirely free to do things according to their own best discretion. But ISKCON is the society directly following Srila Prabhupada and directly connected to Srila Prabhupada. And therefore, you, I think, arguably say, directly getting mercy from Srila Prabhupada. We are it every day, every time we're worshiping Krishna Balaram, every time we're completing 16 rounds, every time we're doing anything that we got from Prabhupada, we're getting Prabhupada's mercy. So, and ISKCON is dedicated to that. When our governing body meets, what's their criterion ultimately? Is this what Prabhupada would want us to do? So that's special. So if you don't feel a particular affinity for Srila Prabhupada or a specific desire to be in Prabhupada's line of teaching, then it doesn't, then that's not a consideration for you. But those of us who feel that we've benefited from Srila Prabhupada and that we really want to continue to be in a society dedicated to following Prabhupada, well, that's ISKCON. And that's not to say that leaders of other institutions don't have great respect for Srila Prabhupada. Some of them probably don't, and some of them most certainly do. So that's there also. But here, this is our guiding principle. Is that okay? Okay. Sorry I didn't get to your question. And we won't because we're out of time. Did that boy come who wanted to meet you? Who wanted to be here today? Gorgovinda Maharaj, he'll come tomorrow maybe? It's been one day he'll come. Yes? With the books, he'll come someday. But anyway, he didn't come today. Okay. All right. We'll stop here. And we'll resume. Today is like a special departure. Although I should mention that there's a discussion also in in the previous chapter of Brihad Bhagavatamrita about Nanda Maharaj returning to Vrindavan from alone without Krishna, and how everyone responded and what it was like for him to come back alone. So that's a very, what should we say, vivid discussion. Yes, Hare Krishna, good. Then, Prabhuji, what's your name? Vīrbhadra. This is Vīrbhadra Prabhu. He's a disciple of His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And he heard that we were discussing last night Gaur Govinda Maharaj's some katha about him and something about his books. And so he's brought some books. So you can take advantage of his presence. We'll have some kirtan for a few minutes, and then you can take a look at the books that he's brought. Okay. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Tham ki jai. Navadip Tham ki jai. Jagannath Puri ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamana Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you all very much. And again, Virabhadra Prabhu is happy to show you these books. Do we have some prasadam for people? We have some Ekadashi prasadam for you also. And tomorrow, Krishna book.